Today we will be doing axillary nerve. It is being one of the terminal branches of the posterior cord. You can see it is first lateral to the radial nerve. It is first lateral to the radial nerve and posterior to axillary artery. You can see in this diagram. This is lateral to the radial nerve and posterior to the axillary artery to begin with. At the lower border of subscapularis muscle, you can see in this diagram, this is posterior cord, these are divisions, and here axillary nerve arises. So at the lower border of subscapularis muscle, it turns backward to enter the quadrangular space. This is the anterior view which you are seeing. Axillary nerve goes like this, winds round. You can see from back that from front axillary nerve is coming and it has turned round, it has entered the quadrangular space. So I repeat, axillary nerve, which is also called circumflex nerve, it is important because it supplies the deltoid muscle, and deltoid muscle we all know is the main abductor of the arm. Surgically it is important because it is commonly involved in dislocation of the shoulder. Axillary nerve is a small terminal branch of the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, and its root value is C5 C6, basically ventral rami of C5 C6. In the lower part of axilla, important thing, it does not supply any muscle in the axilla. So axillary nerve courses through lower part of the axilla into the quadrangular space, where it terminates by dividing into two branches, anterior and posterior division. In the lower part of axilla, the nerve runs downward behind the third part of the axillary artery. At this place, the nerve leaves the axilla by winding round the lower border of subscapularis in close relation to the lowest part of the capsule of the shoulder joint, where it gives a branch to the capsule of the joint and enters the quadrangular space. The nerve then passes backward through the quadrangular space. I will show a diagram also of where it winds round like this. It winds round like this. Okay? And it enters the quadrangular space. So I repeat once again, axillary nerve being one of the terminal branches of the posterior cord is at first lateral to the radial nerve and posterior to the axillary artery. First lateral to the radial nerve and posterior to the axillary artery. At the lower border of subscapularis, it turns backward to enter the quadrangular space along with posterior circumflex humeral vessels. As it passes through the space, it is in close relation to the inferior aspect of the shoulder joint and gives out an articular branch to the joint. It is also closely related to the medial surface of surgical neck. It is closely related to the medial surface of the surgical neck of humerus. Having passed through the space, the nerve divides into anterior and posterior division. When it enters this space, it divides into anterior and posterior division. The anterior division, which is also called anterior terminal branch, winds round the surgical neck of the humerus under cover of the deltoid muscles. It supplies the muscles itself and also the skin over the lower part of the muscle. The posterior division or the posterior terminal branch gives muscular branches to the teres minor and deltoid, and later emerges from the posterior border of the deltoid to the subcutaneous area to become the upper lateral cutaneous nerve. This is how this axillary nerve divides into anterior and posterior division. Anterior division, you can see in this diagram. Yes, it is like this. Here it is. The nerve you can see, first you see the diagram, then I will explain it. Have you seen this? Now see this diagram once again. This is the anterior division and this is the posterior division. The anterior branch, this one, it is accompanied by the posterior circumflex humeral vessels. These are posterior circumflex humeral vessels. You can see in this diagram, these are posterior circumflex humeral vessels. It winds down the surgical neck of the humerus deep to the deltoid. It is deep to the deltoid, reaching almost up to the anterior border of the muscle. It supplies the deltoid and the skin over it. The posterior branch supplies the teres minor and the posterior part of the deltoid muscle. It supplies the teres minor and the posterior part of the deltoid muscle. The nerve to the teres minor bears a pseudoganglion. You can see it's a pseudoganglion. What is a pseudoganglion? It's a fibrous tissue and fat and without any neurons. The posterior branch then pierces the deep fascia of the lower part of the posterior border of the deltoid muscles and continues as the upper lateral cutaneous nerve of arm, and it supplies skin over the deltoid area. So this is all about axillary nerve. The important thing you must remember is that it is one of the terminal branches of the posterior cord. It is first lateral to the radial nerve and posterior to the axillary artery. At the lower border of subscapularis, it enters the quadrangular space. As it passes through the space, is it in close relation to the inferior aspect of the shoulder joint and gives out articular branches. And when it is in quadrangular space, it divides into anterior and posterior division. You can see these are anterior and posterior division. The anterior division or anterior terminal branch and this posterior terminal branch, which gives a branch to the teres minor, have a pseudoganglion, and this continues as cutaneous nerve of arm, lateral cutaneous nerve of arm.